right, we're at like take 500 of this video, so that will help me be more succinct. I am going to jump into the details of your chart. The first piece I wanted to talk with you about is your big three with astrology. I'm not going to spend too much time on astrology or human design. I'm going to talk mostly about gene keys, but it's worth noting. So, your big three, I believe I explained it in the introduction aspect of this experience. Your big three is your sun, your moon, and your rising. Your sun is like the core of who you are. Your moon is like your emotional side, what's underneath the surface for you. And then your rising is how other people perceive you, and also what you're looking to perfect or the road you're walking towards throughout your life. That's your rising sign. Your sun is in Pisces. As you know, it's usually what people refer to as the, what's your sign? Oh, I miss. So you're Pisces. Pisces are very loyal. They're great listeners. They see what's possible. They're dreamers. They like love to have a vision. They don't always manifest the vision, but because depending on what else is in your chart, they're not necessarily the most grounded, or yeah, it depends on the other pieces that are in your chart to balance out that Pisces energy. But Pisces is all about the dream, and it's a water sign, so it's very emotional. I feel like Pisces has a soft, a, s- a collective, a soft and collective focus when it comes to the emotion. Like, they're very astute. That's what I want to say. They're very astute in terms of the emotional reality. Um, and each of the water signs are very in tune with the emotions. They have emotional acuity. There's an awareness there that's like much more expansive than maybe with the other signs. But I find that depending on which water sign you are, it gets expressed a little bit differently. So for the Pisces, they tend to have, because they're dreamers and they're like big picture people, they tend to have emotional awareness around the larger collective things at play. The bigger picture of what's actually happening in a relationship, in the world, in the family. Like, they have an automatic understanding of navigating what's going on. Cancer is a water sign, but they're very home and family focused. And so their emotional acuity really is heightened around their family members specifically. So it's less about the larger picture of the world or the larger picture of the relationship. It's like really like, I know my family and I know what's going on with the emotional, dynamics there. Scorpio is the other water sign. Hi. And I'm a Scorpio sun. Um, is a water sign, and their emotional acuity is more on the depths, the darkness, the shadow side. It's like we live in a polarity world at this point, and so you need the dark and the light. It's a both and equation. You can't have one without the other. And so many of us, we like ignore the dark or think it's associated with evil, but it's not. It's like you plant a seed in soil, it's dark down there, but that's where your roots are growing, and it's Scorpio is really all about like the emotional acuity around alchemy, around transformation, around really taking like the challenges of life, the dark stuff, the hard stuff, the stuff that we don't want to go through, and going, well, let's really look at this from a whole picture perspective and see how we can transmute it, transform it, optimize it, alchemize it, all of those pieces. So Scorpio is not afraid to look at the dark. In that context, obviously, it's about rebirth. It's about death, the regeneration, solving the great mysteries, all of that. So those are kind of the nutshell, the water signs. Your Pisces, I'm Scorpio. Anyway, that's your sun sign. Your moon is in Virgo, and I'm doing this based on your chart. I'll show you in a moment, because I'll share the screen. But your moon, which is the emotions underneath the surface, how you really feel about things, whether that gets expressed outwardly or not. But your moon is in Virgo. Virgo is a highly perfectionistic sign. It's very grounded, it's very pragmatic, likes to organize things, likes to take a very, like fair, well, Libra's a little bit more fair. Virgo is just like, they think they're always right. Like they're a little more attached to like their perspective being right. They're just very like, this is the way it is. Here's the box that it fits into. This is how we're going to do it. It's very perfectionistic oriented. And so it's a really, I found that an interesting juxtaposition between your Pisces is this sun, it's dreamy, it's in your fifth house, it's very joyful and creative and childlike and feeling all the feelings. And then when you get like triggered, or when you're in your kind of daily routine and rhythm, it's almost like the opposite. It's like very organized, very perfect. This is the way, this is how it's going to be, here's how we're going to do it. So it's like a very different kind of energy. So that was your Virgo, or your moon sign. And then your rising sign, which is again where you're headed, how other people might perceive you. Your rising sign is Scorpio. And so I just explained what Scorpio is all about: transformation, rebirth, basically with that as your rising sign, what that indicates to me and what the rest of your chart confirmed is that transformation is a main theme for you. Like, how many times can you reinvent yourself? How many times can you transform what your experience is on the physical, mental, and emotional level, spiritual level as well, right? And so transformation, if you've been like avoiding it, or, being resistant, or being super Virgo about it, like, no, I'm not going to do it unless it's just like this, it's going to create conflict within yourself. And so knowing that Scorpio and the transformation is part of your chart, and that's your rising signs, where you're headed, some of the things like talking about the great mysteries is, part of what lights you up, that's important to honor that. So let me go over to share the screen just to briefly here. And that, look how boring that is. That's not where I was going. Hold on. So this is, like I said, I'm going to link you to these sites. This is your chart. I'm not going to show your birth information on the internet, so I'm not going to scroll up anymore, but I'm not going to talk to you about this because I don't know enough to do that. But I just wanted to share with you where to look on this site, if it's interesting to you, is I like the way that she describes it. So she highlights, oh, here's your sun. That's your identity. It's in Pisces. Pisces is about sensitive and creative style. It's in your fifth house. Fifth house is about children, creative projects, sex, pleasure. And so the way she describes it, it gives you enough context to be like, oh, that's super interesting. Makes sense. This stuff you totally won't get because I don't even get blah, blah, blah. I thought this was also interesting. Where the moon was at when you were born, because again, it explains, it gives the psychology, the context around it, and it goes through all the planetary placements. So the chart that you saw at the top there, where it had all the symbols of the planets, this just gives more detail. Oh, Mercury's about how you communicate. It's in this sign. It's in this house. That's what that means. It just makes sense of things. That's all I really wanted to share with you about the, all of the stuff is super interesting. Oh, okay, let me point this out because I didn't notice this. Oh, that's super interesting, actually. Okay, so Chiron is in Aries in your sixth house. I know that just sounded like I just spoke in a foreign language. Chiron is known as the wounded healer. It is, it's an asteroid, but it shows up in all of our charts, and what sign it shows up in and what house it shows up in kind of determines the flavor of how you're going to deal with some of your biggest wounding in life. And Chiron, so again, it explains the wounds that push you to seek healing, what and how you teach, as well as the teachers in your life. Um, Chiron is in Aries. Aries is action-oriented style. Aries is also very independent. It goes its own way. It's wants to start wars with people. Like it's got a very intense kind of, can be a very intense kind of energy, just very independent. Like, I'm doing this the way it's going to work for me. Chiron is in your 6th house, which I think is like, yeah, that's interesting. So your 6th house is about health. And the fact that the wounded, and the story of Chiron is basically, like, from a mythological perspective, Chiron was like the master healer, like could heal anything, always knew the right resource, always knew exactly what to do to pull the, the remedy, all of that, was just an incredible healer. Something happened to Chiron, and the wound that Chiron obtained from that experience would not heal. It just wouldn't heal. And so he was a god. He was considered a god. And he begged the rest of the gods. He said, please let me be mortal. So I know that at some point I'm going to die and be released from this wound. And the gods were like, no, sorry. Like, you're out of luck. This is your destiny, basically. And so it's about, like, how do you, individual human being person, live with the wound of Chiron, knowing that the wound is going to that you can transform it, you can alchemize it, you can shape it into different experiences, you can see it from different perspectives. It's not that you're in the same exact Groundhog's Day situation over and over. It can have different faces, right? But the wound itself, it stays. And so, and the wound is in the 6th house of your health and vitality. So what that makes me, when we look at, like, just objectively, I'm sure you have your own emotional experience, and this is in no way to, invalidate that, because that's important in your life journey and your story and all of that. But when we look at all the different health experiences that you've had over the course of your lifetime, and the struggle with the different health experiences that you've had, the wounding around that, and seeing that that's where Chiron lives. I need to double check where Chiron is in my chart. I think it's related to my parents, actually. My parents and money, which is, like, funny, but not really funny. It's all freaking cosmic joke. But that just popped out to share with you. Yeah. So anyway, those are interesting pieces about your chart. The other piece that's popping out is the north node. North node is where we're headed. Your north node is in Capricorn. It explains that, obviously, right here you can see it, but Capricorn's the goat. Capricorn's the builder. Capricorn will do the freaking work. Capricorn does the work. And the Capricorn being in the 3rd house, the 3rd house is about communication. It's ruled by Mercury, so it's about communication, and it's about daily life, siblings, extended family. And so this is about optimizing your experience. I don't know. I think that's because we have a lot of energy around you being a speaker, which is in your other design components, which I'll show you in a moment. Because remember, I said, have you ever thought about being a speaker? And you're like, oh my God, it's in your chart. So the North Node is where you're headed. You're going to have to build to get there, but because it's in Capricorn, and that, like, just the communication piece is popping out to me, and the daily life just looking totally different than what you think it might be. The South Node is where you come from. It's in Cancer, which is very watery, family, And it's in the ninth house. The ninth house is about traveling, education, publishing. I don't know. I'm not sure how that relates to you specifically because I just don't know aspects of your life story. There's a lot of things I just don't know about you or how that might fit in or relate. Anyway, so I think what I'm going to do, because like I said, I can talk a lot, which is so funny because if you didn't know me or you didn't know me when I was a kid, but I was super quiet. I honestly don't remember how I was in high school, and I was probably different around you than maybe other people just because I felt safe and comfortable with you. Like, yeah, you always felt like a safe place to me. And usually when I feel safe is when I talk. Now that I would say, well, this is different for me in the past like couple of years, but I've learned how to create safety within myself. And I don't necessarily, I mean, obviously I prefer to be around people that I feel safe with, but um, I don't have the same fear that I used to when I was younger to just show up and be myself, because I didn't feel safe to do that. Now I do. So now I talk a lot. Apparently I've been saving up since I was like 5 years old. I'm like, "Whoa." So what I'm going to do just to make this a little more like bite-sized chunks is I'll parse it out. Like I'll just make, here's the astrology. So I did an introduction for you. Here's the astrology video, and then I'll do human design and I'll do a gene keys. And then that way they're just shorter and you can go back and just take as long as you want to go through them rather than me give you a 2.5 hour video. Okay, so I'm going to end this and then we'll start the next one on human design. See you.